Welcome back to Your Health Matters. I'm Dr. Magda Porterfield.
And I'm Ron Porterfield.
Well, today I'm so glad you're with us. I have a question for you. Do you have regularity in your life? Please stay tuned. You'll learn the importance of this. So we're going to talk about regularity, right there?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Well, what can we say about this? How would you like to start?
Well, you know, many times when we talk about the regularity, most people think that we're talking about their bowel movements, their bowel habits.
Yes.
And certainly that is a part of it. We want to make sure that we have regular bowel movements because that is a part of good health. Mm-hmm. But as it relates to regularity for this particular program, we're going to be talking about something that touches on much more than just our bathroom habits.
It's good. I'm glad to know that we'll be talking about more than bathroom habits today, honey. So what does regularity mean?
Well, it means recurring at fixed times, a well-ordered life with regular habits.
You know, for some people watching, that might sound a little boring.
Yes.
But don't leave us, even though it sounds boring. You'll be glad that you stayed to hear about it. So what are the implications of regularity for our health?
Yes, that's an important question. As you intimated, regularity may sound a little bit boring, but the implications are this. Having regular habits can bring about the possibility of having greater well-being, more wellness. Mm-hmm. Conversely, having a life of irregularity may set the stage for illness and disease.
Wow, and because our health matters, we want habits that will not set for illnesses and disease.
That's right.
We want habits that would set for well-being.
That's right.
So just hearing that is enough to make me want to know more about regularity. So what's the lifestyle of regularity? Or maybe I should say, what's the lifestyle of irregularity?
Lifestyle of irregularity is no set times for anything. You know, maybe today I eat at this time, maybe tomorrow is that time, maybe I wake up, sleep this time today, maybe that time tomorrow. If people have some regularity, it may be centered around their job. Oh. So they may have to wake up the same time every day. They have to get out to that job because their job requires that they're there at a specific time, and usually they get off at a certain time. So that a lot of the regularity they may have may center around that. Mm-hmm. But their lifestyle habits, for the most part, the time they eat, they go to sleep, exercise or don't exercise, these types of things are just sort of thrown up in the air, and you know, we'll see what happens. Yeah. But they can have a great impact on our lives if we're not doing these at fixed times.
Yeah, you know, even hearing this, I can see that regularity is important, but I really want to know, though, is it really that important for health?
Yes.
Is it that bad for us to not eat our meals and go to bed and wake up and everything irregularly? Making up my own word, but right. Is it that bad, really?
Well, it is that important. It really is that important. If we would have optimal health. You know, in the book Evangelism, Ellen White tells us, and there's other sources there too, that regularity in all things is essential.
Essential.
Essential, that means it's necessary. Yes. Regularity in all things. That is, if we would have optimal health, if we were to have good health, then it's necessary, it's needed, regularity.
So, okay, it's essential. What else can we say about this?
Well, you know, the body is very resilient. We maybe said that before. It's resilient. It can put up with a lot. And for many years of abuse. So regularity may not seem that important in the short run, but eventually things have a way of catching up with it. As we get older, then our bodies may seem to be less resilient. We tend to break down a little bit more. You know, illness and disease start to creep in on us. So it's better to, wherever we are, if we are young in our years, you know, we want to have regularity. If we're older in our years, what we didn't do before, we want to do now. We want to start developing habits of regularity, and we're going to unfold that more as we go forth.
I've heard of something called circadian rhythm. Is that related to regularity in any way?
Absolutely, it is. The circadian rhythm is our body's 24-hour clock, of 24-hour cycle, and it is involved in practically all the functions of the human mechanism. And so it behooves us, it becomes us to work in harmony with our body's rhythm in order that we may have greater health.
Okay. You want to say more on that?
Well, yes, every organ, even though we have this overall body clock, the circadian rhythm, every organ has a circadian clock. And so they are basically synchronized by, well, several habits, but there are certainly 3 key habits that help to, we can say, jumpstart or initiate some good functioning that actually then reach out and we can say synchronize or help the movement of other body clocks.
Okay.
For instance, exercise, nutrition, and the time we go to sleep, our sleep-wake cycle, those 3 have a big impact on our circadian rhythm, the whole, and also the circadian clocks of many of our body organs.
Wow. So you're telling me that my heart, my liver, my kidneys, my pancreas, all these things each have their own body clock.
That's right.
But they work together. It's not like one body clock works one way and another body clock works another way.
No.
They all work in harmony with each other.
There's a word I like to use, I really like this word, and it's called synchronicity. Where things are working in a synchronous fashion. But through a life of irregularity, we can actually begin to have what's known as circadian disorders.
Really?
Meaning we can almost be like a body out of time. You know, we as Seventh-day Adventists, we are, I'm sort of throwing this one in now, right? We are a people of time.
Yes, we are.
We are. You know, we have known about the prophecies of Daniel and other books for a long time. The Lord has brought this knowledge to this movement so that it can be shared to the world, so that we can be a people who are ready for His second coming, but not just us, to be able to send this message to the world.
Yes.
So having this, not only this prophetic timing, but just the personal, practical timing of how the body works is important.
And we have a weekly timing too. Every 7th day we do something,
That's
right?
right.
We stop and we worship.
That's right.
That's right. So let's look at some of these habits of regularity for better health. Maybe we could start with, you mentioned sleeping.
Yes.
Let's look at regularity in sleeping.
Well, there have been many studies done on circadian rhythm and looking at these different things. And so there was a study done with some college students, and they showed that keeping a regular sleep pattern contributes to happiness and well-being. I think that almost seems like, yeah, okay. You know, I think most of us know that, well, you know, if I get a good night's sleep, I feel better.
Yes.
But it's good that they were looking at this scientifically, but specifically, they noticed that if they slept with regularity, that it significantly related to greater morning and evening happiness, healthiness, and calmness throughout the week.
Wow.
So they were able to scientifically check how these students were doing if they actually went to sleep the same time and they got up the same time. And they noted how it was affecting their mood and their effectiveness throughout the day.
You know, as a psychologist, I can attest to that. When I work with people, I
Yes.
talk to people about getting to bed at a regular time and waking up at a regular time. And when they do it, it's helpful. It's hard for many people to do it, but for those who do it, they reap the benefits. What else can we say about regularity in sleeping?
Yes. Well, actually, there's a slide that we can look at here. It's actually from this particular reference is the book Child Guidance, page 111.
By Ellen White.
Ellen White, yes. Now, this counsel is certainly not just for children.
Yes.
It's for adults as well, but this is the place where we'll look at it here. And it says, how prevalent is the habit of turning day into night and night into day? It says, many youth sleep soundly in the morning when they should be up in the early morning, the singing birds, and be stirring when all nature is awake. So here we see here where we have habits of doing things when it's not the best. I noted here that she talked about having the habit of, we've come to a point where we're turning night into day. And so we do that now with all the technological devices that we have, whether they be on our smartphones or our computers or the screen that we may look at some sort of entertainment and all the bright lights. We have really turned night into day. And if we would take a hint from some of the creatures around us, when it gets darker, it's time to really begin to calm down and think about going to sleep. But this turning night into day is having an effect on our health.
I believe that.
Yes.
I believe that, and I think it's an area we need to look at more when we're suffering with different health issues.
Yes.
Night owls, as they say, they've trained themselves most of the time to be night owls, and we don't want to turn night into day. So we talked about sleeping. What about eating? Tell us a little bit about that.
Eating, yes, absolutely. We talked about how the different organs have their own circadian clock. That means they have a certain rhythm, a certain timing that is optimal for good health. Well, our gut has a clock. And so when we eat that first bit of nutrition for the day, it really kickstarts the clocks of several other organs in our body. For instance, that first meal that we have, and you know what? It doesn't really have to be a meal. It could be anything other than water. Or herbal tea is okay.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't have any sugar or anything in it like that. For
That
instance,
the body has to digest.
yes. For instance, like for people that do drink coffee, that will get things going, but in an unhealthy way. For instance, our gut clock is connected with the liver, the heart, the kidneys, and they all respond directly to food. So when we are eating our food one time this morning and another time this day and another time that day, what we're doing is we're causing circadian disruption, and our systems become confused. It's like, wait a minute, what time are we going to eat today?
Yeah.
And remember, our liver, our heart, our kidneys all respond to the
What's happening in the gut.
in the gut. And so we kind of throw things out of whack. Remember, we're resilient, and so it's not like we eat 9 o'clock today and at 11:30 tomorrow, and all of a sudden we have this illness. So we might have to endure this for many years. But there again, we want to be regular. We want to work in harmony with our body.
So that means that we can't do brunch?
Oh, brunch. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a study that was done, and they showed, because brunch, people want to split the difference. Well, it's not breakfast, but it's not lunch. It's sort of in between. So they come up with this idea. So they found actually that eating meals, in the study I found that eating meals later on the weekends than during the week may cause weight gain. Because your body's metabolic rhythms suffer from even small disruptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we throw our metabolism off. Our body lacks regularity. Please feed me the same time every day. Let me exercise the same time every day. Let me go to sleep and get up the same time every day. It works much more efficiently. It may sound boring to some, but our bodies, our minds, our spirits will love us.
For it.
Yes.
So does Ellen White say anything about that?
Absolutely. There's another slide. One of my favorite books, The Ministry of Healing, as you mentioned, by Ellen White. And on page 303, we find these words. It says, regularity in eating is of vital importance. There should be a specified time for each meal. At this time, let everyone eat what the system requires and then take nothing more until the next meal. Yes. And then there is another slide here, another passage, this one on counsels on health, page 118. It says regularity in eating is very important for health of body and serenity of mind. Never should a morsel of food pass the lips between meals. So we see here that eating at a regular time is of the utmost importance. She said a couple of some key things here. She said that it is of vital importance, right? And that here in the second statement I read, it said that it is important for serenity of what? Mind, body and mind.
Okay.
Health of body and serenity of mind.
So some people, if they want more serene, peaceful life, they need to have more regularity.
That's right.
And so you've mentioned also exercise. Do you want to just briefly say something about that, regularity and exercise?
Yes, when it's done, when exercise is done with a regular time, it will then help to strengthen the circadian clocks in the rest of the body. And it will help to induce sound sleep later on.
Yes, I believe that. So we need to be regular in everything, but especially in sleeping and eating, and we briefly mentioned exercise. What about, this is my area, that's all kind of dealing with some mental health, but physical health, but what about more about mental health? What about regularity with mental health?
Right, yes. Well, there was another study that was done, and they were looking at people, a study of 175 people. And they were looking at people that were challenged with bipolar disorder. And they found that the patients that participated in the study, it was a behavioral therapy, and it was designed to help them to improve in regularity in their daily habits. And they found that those that went through this regularity, they averted depressive episodes longer, and also the manic episodes longer than, say, the people that were not on the study, and they needed mood regulating medicine much less.
Yes.
And they didn't suffer these different episodes as much when they were having a regular lifestyle. And it should be noted that the habits that they helped them to focus on mostly were those three areas that we looked at: meals at regular times, sleep at regular time, and regular exercise.
Isn't that amazing?
And those three had far-reaching benefits with the whole life.
I wish that my mental health colleagues would know of this information and could use that. Sometimes these people get put into psychiatric hospitals, which, can be helpful, but if they would implement some of this, I think it would be so helpful.
I think so.
We like to wrap up our program with some spiritual nuggets. So what can you share with us about regularity from that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the book of Ecclesiastes, I think about that. There's in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, it says this: "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Right there from the Bible, we can see that everything has a time. Everything has a season.
Yes.
And God has created us, even us, created our physiology with times and seasons. I mean, any female 12 or maybe 16 years or older can testify to the fact that the body has a cycle, a rhythm, right? And then this last one from Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verses 5, it says, "A wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment." So by God's grace, may we have the wisdom to work in harmony with this beautiful machinery that God has given us, that we may both discern time and judgment.
Amen, amen. I pray that you, our viewers, were blessed by this program on regularity, even though I know some of these things is always good to go over it. And I'm encouraging you, see where you are being irregular in your meals and ask God to help you, not only your meals, your sleep and your exercise, whatever habit of your life, and ask God to give you the power to be more regular. Your body will love you for it. Please stay tuned. We have a wonderful natural remedy that we will be sharing with you. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome back for our Natural Remedies spot. Today we're going to be demonstrating a heating massage. Heating massage can be beneficial for things like coughs, colds, flu. We have a slide here for you. Chest congestion. It can be also beneficial for tonsillitis, laryngitis, bronchitis, headaches, and also some abdominal discomfort. There are several ways that we can administer a heating compress. So we're going to show you at least one of those ways today. So I have my wife with me here. And let's say, first I'm going to show you that a heating compress, it is comprised of 3 layers. We have a thinner, sort of a cottony layer, and you can use old sheets or anything like that. You can cut those up into sections and use those. And then we have a plastic layer that's going to cover that layer. And then we have a thicker layer that can be fleece or felt, wool, if you can take that on your skin, or a thicker cotton. And so we're going to use all 3 of these layers for our heating compress. Now, I mentioned that it can be beneficial for something like tonsillitis or laryngitis. Well, for that, we would apply it around the throat. So what we would want to do then is we would want to dip the first layer in some ice cold water. There again, I'm putting ice cold water again on my wife, and she is not her favorite to get ice cold on her. And so here we go. I'm going to apply some ice cold. Here I go, dear. Ooh. Apply that on her. Right. You want to get this on as soon as possible. And then right away you want to put the plastic layer right over that. All right. And so this particular one, as I mentioned, is, let's say she's having a sore throat or tonsillitis or something like that. And then I have a couple of safety pins. I'll just use one for the sake of our demonstration here. And you just pin it together so that it'll hold. So, all right, so I have 3 layers. You saw that. The thinner cottony layer, which was cold. Then the plastic layer covered that. And the thicker felt or fleece layer covered that. Now let's talk about what's happening here. You put that ice cold on someone, what's going to happen? They're going to say, well, what's wrong with you? No. It's going to close the pores, and the blood will go to the interior. And then you will have that's a primary action. But then there's a secondary reaction, and that is after the blood goes to the interior, after a minute or so, then blood from the interior will then rush back to the surface where that cold is applied in an attempt to warm that area up again. And so you have this circulation going on, blood to the interior, blood to the exterior, and as that happens, the body begins to heat this area up, and it begins to flush white blood cells to this area to be able to deal with the infection, the congestion, whatever is happening here. And so you can leave this on overnight. You can put this on and go to bed and wake up in the morning, and then you can take a cold cloth, and then after you take this off, and then you would want to friction this area down, because in the morning this should feel cold. All right, then what about something if you're experiencing a cough or cold or flu or something like that? Then you can use the same 3 layers, and then you would want to cover the mid area. So we could have a thinner t-shirt. We would want to dip this in ice cold water. We want to wring this out. And then I would have the person, in this case my wife, to put that on. Now, of course you realize, or maybe you don't, but I'll let you know, you're going to be putting this on your bare body. So we can't have that here, but if she was challenged with some cough at night, she would put this on her body and ice cold, and then right away we would want to cover it with a plastic layer. And this is simply a trash bag that we've cut a section in for a head, and then 2 for the arm. She would put that on, and then on top of this she would put a thicker, warmer layer, and this is going to heat her up overnight. As a matter of fact, my wife has a story to tell. She's not mic'd right now, so I'll tell the story for her. She was at her cousin's home in St. Croix many years ago, beautiful St. Croix, and she started coming down with a flu or something like that. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yes. And then she tried this 1 or 2 nights, one night, and she felt like new the next morning. So this is incredible. These simple remedies, they can work fast. Sometimes you might have to continue with it for 2 or 3 days or whatever, but sometimes they have that fast-acting relief. All right, so that's another use that you can do with heating compress. Now, on a previous episode, I told you how to do the hot foot bath, and I mentioned that if you have diabetes, any loss of sensation in the extremities, peripheral neuropathy, something like that, hot foot bath would not necessarily be good. As a matter of fact, it would not be good because you might end up getting burned, and we don't want that, right? I mentioned that we would have something else that you could do. Well, the heating compress is that thing. You would get a thinner pair of socks, and you would dip those socks in not hot, cold, but ice cold water. You would put those socks on the person's feet, all right? So you have 2 pairs of socks. These are my thicker layer. I don't have the thinner layer with me, but put a thinner pair of socks on, ice cold, and then you could get some plastic bag that you shop with. Put that on top of the thinner layer, and then you would put the thicker socks on over that. And you can go to sleep with that, or if you want to wear boots, if you got to go to work, you can walk around with this all day and no one knows what's going on. And then what that's going to do is the body is going to heat that up, as we talked about, and it's going to widen those blood vessels, and it's going to recirculate the blood flow. It can draw congestion from your head, your chest, your abdomen, wherever the circulation needs to happen. And that can be a wonderful use for those who are having challenges with diabetes where they cannot have that hot water applied to them. Also, if you're having some abdominal discomfort, pelvic discomfort, you can also do that heating compress to the abdomen, and that's also another place that can be of wonderful benefit. Friends, I hope that you will try the heating compress. It's simple, yet very effective. Thank you again for joining us on Your Health Matters.